Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Masters Mindset and Mental Health Podcast. So, this is season two, episode four, and I've got one that I am personally really excited to bring to you. I did warn you guys that the episodes that would be coming up in this season were just going to get stronger and stronger. So, this one, this one's got me excited. I am joined by I can introduce them in different ways from my own balcony and how my own perspective. So, but for the audience, where the real excitement will begin, I'll introduce them as Jack Scott, the innovate athlete who is also the Montane Winter Spine champion and unbelievable record holder. Uh, yeah, we're going to go into that part, but Jack Scott is also, he's got a fantastic story just from what I know, but we're going to go right into that. He's got various record, fastest known times, various accolades, but the Winter Spine was the one that I think for most people just went, whoa, who's this guy? So I'm going to be chatting with Jack all things mindset and mental health during this episode, and I know already that you're gonna love it. So welcome, Jack, and thanks for joining me.
Quite the intro. Thanks, Kev. It's okay.
So I was just chatting to Jack before we go online. I deliberately sort of tried to bide my time like an impatient kid, waiting to reach out to you. When was the best time? Because I knew on the back of the winter spine at the start of the year, you were going to be exceptionally busy. Have things died down any?
Uh, Probably not, to be honest. I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of emails flying around, all sorts of opportunities and different ideas and stuff. But I'm getting better at dealing with that. I know what I need, I know what I want, and I know what's right for me and the family. I think one thing that I'm quite prominent, like I quite like to base myself around, is the more you say something, the less it means. So I am handpicking who I speak to, obviously getting in touch with you, not just as a running podcast, but also all the other implementations in life, which is unique in this podcast and important to me.
Yeah.
And also sort of social media stuff. I don't say much, but when I do say something, I like to think it means something. So that's the sort of vibe I'm carrying through whatever happens next.
And that's a great point just to kick off with. How do you manage the expectations that everyone now has of you? So let's not be kidded. You already were an accomplished runner. You know, you were doing well. I've listened to some of the podcasts you've done. I've read your blogs. I've sort of saw a lot of different things. So it's not like you didn't have a name, but January comes, you are now on the TV, you're on radio, you're on everything. How do you manage that the expectations and the weight of those expectations the world now has to you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this?
Well, in my own four walls and under my roof, I'm. There's no expectations here at all. My mindset and my philosophy is to be, if I can keep running my life at a good sustainable rate, stay happy and healthy, it makes me a better man and a better husband and a better son and a better brother, and that's all I want. So, you know, I put something on social media a couple of days ago. Someone can take my time away from me from the spine, but all that emotional power and how I managed to figure it out and how it's made me grow and learn as a man, that's like invaluable. Um, and I think the sport, long distance running, like it filters people out, and you're always you can control yourself, but the sport will always win, and you need to realize. And I realized this quite a long time ago. Like if you think you matter, or if you think you're important, or if you think you're somebody in this sport, you're losing sight of what it's about. I'm doing this for me and for my family and to have amazing experiences and to pick people up with excitement, to disappoint them when I fail and all the bits in between. So there's absolutely no expectations for what's next or what the next 3 or 4 years look like. Hopefully I'll be blessed with injury-free miles and adventures. But I guess since the spine, I've sort of pulled the plug on racing a bit. I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm focusing on a couple of other things coming up, which I know take a huge amount of time to get right. And I'm sort of falling in love with the sport all over again. To be honest, I'm not spreading myself too thin. I'm just taking my time and enjoying being out on the hills.
And we'll come back. We'll come back to that because that's an interesting point. Something that I'm conscious of about the whole bandwidth and knowing how much you have on your plate and how much you can go. So for those, I've got quite a diverse audience. Like you mentioned there, it's we're not just going to talk about the running stuff. We've got loads that we can really dip our toes into here. But for those who don't live in the same world as me, let people know what was the spine? What was the spine? What was that event? And so that people have got an idea what you actually did in January.
Yeah, the spine race follows a Pennine Way. There's a summer version and there's the more hardcore winter version. I think as a pinnacle, it's the pinnacle of single stage endurance racing in Europe, and I'm not sure about America or around the world. It's 270 miles, give or take, single stage race. So there is checkpoints, but the clock never stops. So it's not like the Dragon's Back or Cape Wrath. There's 16 hours of darkness. I think conditions can be extremely variable. I think this year wind chill was like -18 on Crossfell, but then lower down in the valley it was frozen. Good running conditions, and for me, it's like a canvas. Like the Pennine Way was a canvas this time, a blank canvas, and I got the chance to paint my picture after a few warm up races. 2023 was a successful run, and 2020 was a successful run in some regard, but I didn't finish the race anywhere near finish the race. Didn't even get a third through it. Pennine Way is there for everyone to go and do what they need to do on it, and I did something in January, which was still trying to figure out. It's pretty ridiculous, but it's just a good day out. Very good few days.
Yeah, yeah, you weren't out as long as probably not out as long as anyone expected. It was incredible, but here's the thing that's been burning in my mind. You showed an incredible amount of character in that race, and I think for those who witnessed you at the end, were like me, were absolutely captivated, and the character that you showed. You've talked a lot about this character in subsequent interviews in terms of the mindset that you had to have. I guess let's drill down a little bit.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to understand is when do you think, now reflecting on that, when do you think those characteristics first started to show in your life?
I'd say when COVID came around. So COVID swung in. It was a huge uncertainty for millions of people all over the world, in Britain or wherever. And so I'm self-employed. I've always relied on other people for work or for stability or for finance as well. I've got a steady job, but theoretically I'm self-employed. And my boss at the time, he died sort of 3 or 4 days before we went into full lockdown, and so it was a very uncertain time anyway. Then life was literally turned upside down. The business sort of collapsed, finances sort of collapsed overnight because of issues with banking, and the world was locked away. So as a man, I was sort of, I don't know, I was really vulnerable. I didn't realize how vulnerable I was, paying a mortgage and trying to support a family. We'd got engaged sort of 3 months before, and then all of a sudden someone's taken out of your life and bang, it's all, stability's gone. And I learned a lot in those 8 to 9 weeks as finance were getting sorted out and the world was changing. And I guess deep down I vouched to be in control of my own destiny from that point, really. And I suppose that's gone into my running. When I'm on a start line, especially in a long distance race like that, it's me against me. Yeah.
So it tells you something about when the resilience really started. But
Yeah.
during this event, you learned. Well, I'm not saying you learned. You almost mastered the art of suffering. This is something that absolutely spoke volumes to me. Something I get to witness firsthand. Where I've got a younger brother who is well developed in the art of suffering. But you seem to, in that event, really take control of when everything lends itself to say quit. Everything lends itself to say this will be unbearable. The pain will be horrible. The suffering will be horrible. But you seem to just take your mind to another level. I'm curious if that sort of thing showed up in your younger life.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you
So
were developing and stuff.
yeah, it's been well documented that I was suffering with a gambling addiction for 5, 6 years from when I turned 20. I was a young man. I was, on paper, I was lost. I was floating through life. I had an amazing girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Um, and I did suffer off my own accord. I made mistakes financially, and as a lot of, I just made mistakes, and every day it could be every day, and sometimes it would be 3 weeks, and I wouldn't gamble, and then I'd have a bad 3 hours or 3 minutes. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I thought, I've always said to my wife, like, I feel like I am built to suffer and to endure. And what I put myself through in my early 20s was an absolute minefield of psychological pain off my own back. And then once I realized that I've got a talent, and that talent can sort of get me to the suffering stage, but actually promote good and happiness and hope. Running can't hurt me because of where I've been through my gambling addiction. So if I hit that sweet spot, which I guess I did on the Pennine Way, I feel I can be the best at that, and I guess that's what happened.
Yeah, I
The
hear
best
you.
at suffering for a good goal.
Yeah, so it's almost like they talk about motivation coming from it's either you're running away from pain or running towards pleasure, and you manage to embody you're coming from a place of pain and in the past, and that now motivates you to, like you say, to be better and better and better. But you talk about that, so that would be your early 20s. So how bad did that get for you? How, where, I guess when we think about the subjects of mindset and mental health, that would probably be maybe some of your lowest points in your mental health journey.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mental health is like the heading, and then everyone has their own
Yeah,
paragraphs.
yeah.
Mental health is up there. It's just a chapter of my life, and that was probably that was probably ended when I did the Southern Upland Way, which we can talk about later
Yeah.
on. And then the next chapter was probably Southern Upland Way to when I touched the wall in January. But that first chapter is something, or that chapter, say from when I was 19, 20 to maybe 25, probably my proudest chapter, because it was dark, and it was gloomy, and I found a way to literally survive it. Um, and then I took everything I needed from that, from not being trustworthy, from not having an identity, to thinking, one day, at the bottom of the page, I thought I'd be in prison. I thought I'd be inside. I couldn't see a way out, and
Mhm.
I endured it, and I endured it, and I suffered on my own in silence, relatively, and then I found a way out of it. And running opened that door. So I chose running to leave that life I was living. And then when I realised maybe I've got something in me which is a talent, I was at a crossroads, and I think running chose me at that point. I think running gave me the option, and then it sort of. I used to talk about it as going in and out of like a skin, or in and out of like a body. So when I would gamble, I would go into a certain zone of Jack. When I'd run, I'd be in a certain zone of Jack. And then the crossroads came, and I'd already, I'd been gambling free for about 18 months, but the crossroads came and running chose me.
So did
I'd used
running,
it. I'd planted the seed.
yeah.
I'd watered it. I'd nourished it. And then when the time come, like, right, are you gonna pave this life how you want? Are you gonna try and become more professional? Are you gonna give it your all? I felt like running asked me that question. And I said, yeah, and I was gone. That was it.
So did running kick in? So you're in a period where you're suffering, you're in a dark place, you're trying to navigate yourself through it. And I've been in that place, where there's a lot of shame involved. You don't know who to turn
Yeah.
to. Well, you can't turn to anyone. So what happens at that point, Jack? Do you start running while you're doing this as a just something you can do, or how does that next step start when you're in that really dark corner? How do the two worlds come in to then release you from one?
Yeah. So, I mean, for clarity, for uh, thinking time, to be away from the phone, to be away from gambling, I guess I started running.
Yeah,
Uh, and then I think I've said before that the analogy where the day one of running, I was 99% a gambler and 1% a runner. And things evolved over time. I enjoyed it. There was also a sense of sort of punishment or disbelief where, oh, Jack's running 100 miles. He can't be a gambler. He's hiding that side of his life. I thought I could hoodwink that. And I guess running gave me the time on feet, whether it be racing or training, gave me the time to review, to think, and to learn and grow. And then eventually it was like a parting of ways. As soon as I went 49-51, so 51% a runner, 49% a gambler, I was edging towards that crossroads, and I was done. But I do think I remember I did a 100-mile race in Brecon Beacon, my first 100 in December 2019, maybe. And I remember the build up to that race, like the week before. I couldn't wait to be away from my phone and be away from the option of gambling for 24 hours, I guess. Uh, oh, it was emotional. It was emotional torture. It was a really difficult but interesting period of my life, and I guess um, I've extracted everything from it. And the sort of person I want to become and what I want to preach is taking all the positives from it and helping it in your next chapter propel you to a different level. And I work with a psychologist now, and it's funny. Like, the psychologist showed himself to me. So just before the Scottish Southern Upland Way, I'd been gambling free for 18 months, like I said, and I was in a good spell of life. And I happened across a physio just up the road, rang her. She said, I can't deal with what you've got if you've got certain strength in your muscles. You need a bigger man, literally a big guy. So I got in touch with, she promoted me to speak to this guy called Steve. And Steve Hall's down the road, the other end of town. And I found him and he helped me physically, and then he set me up for Scotland, and then our relationship grew since there. But it's really funny because if I'd have found Steve when I was in the middle of gambling, I think I would have sort of jeopardized our relationship and not been not not used him as I needed to. So it's really interesting. I did it the way I did it. Like, I went full circle with gambling. I knew I needed help. I knew I was right on the brink.
yeah.
And there were some days, like I said, I thought, you're digging yourself a hole here. You're going to lose everything. But addiction is a lack of intelligence and a lack of patience and a lack of self-worth. Um, and when I got to the bottom of that well, I'd had enough of it. I was literally exhausted with it, tired. It wasn't even about finances anymore. It just became like brushing your teeth or going to the toilet, just something you did every day. And then running gave me the option to put my energy and thought patterns into something else, and the chain was broken. But I went full circle, and I'd like to say that, I did it like the way you saw me suffer at the spine. Yeah, I did my addiction like that. So I went full circle, went through everything, and came out as a successful experiment. All
Yeah.
that bit of time in between was extremely bumpy, and that bit in between would have broken people. Like it would have. Like the spine race, it breaks people. People struggle. People can't reach the end. I endured it. I got through it. It wasn't healthy and it wasn't safe. I didn't confine in family. I didn't get help. Gam Stop, Gam Fam, amazing charities out there. So I endured it, did it the hard way, and running, I endure it, I do it the hard way. It's just my characteristics. I've taken them out of one box and put them into another, and now I want to promote happy, healthy young men and women, old men and women. But don't look back in resentment. I don't regret what I did because it's
No.
now paved the way for what on earth's going on now.
No, that leads it on perfectly to just something I was thinking. I know for a fact that a lot of people who listen to this podcast have battled with various types of addictions, low points, suffering, different sort of elements. Um, relatability will be massive here as they listen to this section of the podcast. How how close did you come to losing everything, Jack? And secondly, what has that addictive personality or that addictive period, what has it given you?
Well, I mean, if it wasn't, I mean, I don't measure finances,
Yep,
so I know how much I lost roughly.
yep,
I think I don't measure that because I could walk out in the garden now. There could be a lottery ticket blowing on my lawn, and I could pick it up and have all the money in the world. That is a realistic. That could happen, however small. I can't walk out there and go in a time machine and go back and be the better version of
yep,
the man I want to be. I remember I went to New York City with my wife for her 21st. And I don't think I gambled when I was there, but I knew I definitely gambled before. And I just thought, I'm not the best version of myself for the people around me, and that hurts. And that hurts now. Like I could cry now about that. And I just promised myself that when running gave me a chance, that I just want to be the best man I can be. That's why you talk trophies, prizes, records, sponsorship contracts. You know, I just want to be the best version of myself for my family and hopefully for my children when they come along. Without the love of my wife and that sturdy, if I was jeopardizing everything, she was still there and she knew bits. She didn't know a lot, and that the fact that I lied and I kept things to myself because I was suffering.
yep.
She was the shining light through that. So without her, I'd have had nothing. I would have, I put all my eggs in one basket with her, and she saved my life.
Yeah, I can relate a lot to that. Yeah, I can absolutely.
She
Um,
gave me a chance. Like when it
yeah,
that might sound mad, but like I've got a picture on my phone actually where me mate did and I see this picture and it's got nothing to do with that, but just when you see an image and you can relate to something that happened.
yeah,
So my mate was doing a Paddy Buckley winter anti-clockwise 2 years ago, and I waited for him halfway up the mountain. I could see his little light, dark, middle of late December. I could see his little light on the summit, and I've got a picture, and you can see this tiny strobe. And if gambling was that black canvas, Jess was that tiny strobe of light that just got in my blood and got in my head, and gradually that light expanded and the beam grew and grew and grew, and in the end it just blew the black canvas apart. And that energy, like the suffering and the energy and the forget the finances, never even spoke about it. It's not important. The energy and the passion I put into my gambling, the version of myself, like that can't be measured. Like if I put that into like what I did at the spine isn't even a drop of what I've got. Like just a willingness to sacrifice and give yourself to something that now promotes good instead of bad. You can't measure that with heart rate. You can't measure that with books. You can't measure that with machines. That's something.
yeah.
That's an energy that is you can't measure that. And I've got that in me for sure.
That's beautifully described. I'm just dissecting that there. I absolutely love it. And I think, for a lot of people who are, they're also using running as that thing. That's their drug. That's their vice. It's their thing in their toolbox, whatever way you want to describe it. I
Yeah.
think coming from someone who's a decorated champion, people that know all about him, and for him to be saying, you know, it's about the passion, it's about how it makes you feel, it's about the journey, the direction. It's
Mm.
not about all that other stuff that people are reading about and all that. Yeah, the things are cool, but it's about so much more, which you seem to have captured in a bottle.
I realised that like to enhance a performance or to let running into my life as much as I wanted it to be, and to become that runner 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. And that doesn't mean I don't do a lot of miles. Like I don't train, I do a lot in the gym, but I don't need running. I don't need to run every day, but I need to be a runner every day. I need to have that in my blood and have that. That's dealing with injuries. That's dealing with fatigue. It's dealing with expectation, like you said. Like I realized I needed that bubble. I needed to be that man, but I didn't need to physically run every day. Like at the start, you might need that. You might need to replace your eating addiction, your drinking addiction with, right, instead of drinking every day, I'm going to run every day. It's not a sustainable approach, but whatever gets you out the door and whatever puts a smile on your face, and then let yourself evolve as a man or woman, experience different things, and then see what happens. But being a runner isn't all about physically running, it's much deeper than that. And I realised, and that's why I've given myself up to the sport.
So what we know,
Sacrificed.
yeah. So what we know that running is one of the things we talk about, you can't pour from an empty glass. Now, so what we know already for this conversation, one of the biggest things that fill your glass is running. That's what's going to promote that, like you say, that top tier label, which is a good mental health, positive mental health. What else do you use to fill the glass? What's Jack's go-to items? What keeps his glass full? And secondly, are you now better equipped, given you've talked a lot about suffering and the darker periods of your life, are you now much better equipped to identify when that glass is running low?
Yeah, I think, again, especially since the spine, I've been reviewing and looking at a lot of things subconsciously. Like running is now the way I express myself. Don't get me wrong, like that is the way, and the way people might see I express myself. But like the glass is full, like the glass is half full, say, like that's life. Like Damien Hall messaged me after the spine, he's like 3 weeks. He said, "What's next for you?" I said, "Life."
Yeah.
Like life is next for me. I'm a young man. I'm not just going to become a slave to this. Like I want to be successful and I want to pick and choose. And running is how I'm going to show that to people. But all those 22, 23 hours a day, I just want to be a better man and be happy and healthy and be the one that people can trust. And because if you go too one dimensional with running, it can be taken away from you. But your mind is running is the physical activity, but everything in between, that's really, really important. So that's something I focus on. Can you just reiterate the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so what else do you use to fill your glass,
Yeah.
apart from running? And are you now much more aware and equipped to recognise when the glass is going low?
Yeah. I think family time and simplicity. So I've got this little dog walking around here. She's stolen my heart, and she's literally changed my life. I like to hold on to simple things that are clean and pure, because I think the world's getting complicated with gadgets and gizmos and relationships and all that. I'm really simplistic guy. I like to think really basic, really simple. 1+1 is 2, black and white stuff. So I'm definitely going to keep hold of that. And I think if your glass is running low, and I suppose it leads to once you've done your Everest, what's next? And I've told people, you know, my Everest was not the spine. My Everest is a career, longevity, failing again, learning again, getting better. There's not an event that I could do or win or a record that I could break, which becomes my Everest. You know, maybe when I'm 50 and I can look back and be like, you know, you climbed those mountains and you stayed high, which is all I want. So if it is, I'd say to anyone, if you feel like you've had a success and you come out the other end of it and your glass is empty or it's diminished, get back to basics and just realize you don't necessarily need a start line to be the best version of yourself. It can be a random Tuesday morning run or a random Tuesday morning swim or just a walk with the dog. You know,
Yep.
appreciate that time in between what people think are the big moments. All that bit in between, that's the most enjoyable for me. No one even sees that. So
Something I'm interested in, Jack, is I had a really good conversation. I don't know if I've heard the name Aldo Kane, the explorer. He did the you know, he was an ex-Marine sniper and all this kind of thing. We did a special for a community that I do online for men, when I'll be posting this episode afterwards. It's got over 3,000 guys in it, and Aldo come on at Christmas time and did a special episode. He talks about, he does these huge world event, like unbelievable things you and I would go, whoa, holy shit, goes to these remote places in the world, does these unbelievable challenges, and he talks about the adventurer's itch. So following a big event, you know, and this is transferable or relatable to a guy who's just done his 10K PB, to Jack Scott, who's just broke the winter spine. So what Aldo talked about was, after a big event or a big challenge, something that's taken so much energy, you're going up, 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 hit the event, goes great, and then you go right off the cliff edge because because you're such a high, it's taken such intensity, mental focus, everything. I've felt it, but I'm not a superstar. I felt it after big races. I had my first multi-day event a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't too severe because I'm now so much more conscious of it. Yeah. I'm dying to know, do you get that? Or are you immune to that now? Or
no, I don't get it, because my running is an expression of who I am. And the day after and the week after, the 10 days after, it's all who I am. I've never run anyone else's race. I've never taken risks in an unnecessary scenario. I'm just myself. And on the Pennine Way, what you saw was me, obviously a fit, healthy, strong me. And coming out the back end of it, as long as you're true to yourself and you're not just blurring your image or picture with, you know, I got that many opportunities after the spine. I was saying no to more stuff than I'm saying yes, and I still am. Because if I go, for example, say if I got a free entry to Cape Wrath and next weekend, went and did it, came up short for energy levels or for fitness or because it's too soon after the spine. I blurred my picture because I've said yes to things and I put myself in that unnecessary area. I never do that, and I never will do that, because that's not. I want to protect what I've got, and I want to move forward with that, in my arms, in my hands, and bide my time, because the stuff I want to do is extremely difficult, and I need to be pure, and I need to be the best version of myself. So the satisfaction comes from within my four walls and under my roof, and there's no dip. There's no dip, because all I did on the Pennine, I didn't do something extraordinary which can't be measured, which is, I knew I could do that. I pictured that. I hadn't pictured 72 hours. I was just calm and collected, and it's nothing new. It's not it was just the way I've described it. I had a good few days on the hill, and I'll do that again, hopefully. Don't separate yourself from reality. You know, it was a long run. It was successful, and it might have changed things for people looking, but still the same guy with the same family and the same outlook on life. So it's not even like it's just like that. It's not even a blip. It's just keep yourself on that line. I always believed I could. I'm just the main thing I'm proud of is that I had the physical capabilities to back up my mindset because I've always felt I've had an elite mindset. I've always felt I can be a bit delusional, a bit different, and I just got myself where I could physically deliver a performance I wanted. That was that.
So you've just your last comment there has just led in perfectly to the thing I was about to ask you next. So you said I've always known I've had that elite mindset, maybe a bit delusional. So I sat and read your UTMB blog post last night.
Nice.
Brilliant read. Brilliant read. Talk about absolute stubbornness. You know, I could swear I loved reading it. But something I've picked up about you, and I think it must be something that really separates some of you guys from, you know, the middle pack, you know, crew and stuff like that, is these little comments. So, you know, I work with people on their mindset. I sit with people in terms of getting them to look at their self-talk and things like that. Again, I'm blessed that I get to spend time around, you know, my brother, who's certainly that real unshakable mindset. But I've picked up in that blog, I've picked up in your race recaps, where you talk about the use of keywords, key messages, you say things to yourself. Are you conscious of the animal in the cage sort of thing? You know that there is that dog in you that, you know. Yeah, I see the smile as I say that there, so I pick up that you obviously are aware of it. And how conscious are you of letting that take over right from the off when you prepare for big events, or do you use it at a certain point?
Yeah.
You know, when does it come out? When does it show itself? How much do you use it?
Yeah, it's really. I know what you're saying, and it's a dangerous dog. It can be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
dangerous dog before. I mean, you know, working with Steve, the physio, but also psychologist, amazing man. He's always said like, if it's not there, you don't need it. If your mind's not going there, you don't need it. It will come to you. Keep your head above the water. It will come to you. And you know, I was hampered in December. I was challenged with injuries and with setbacks. And then I flipped it on its head. I was intelligent. I was patient. I studied. I waited, and all my ducks were in a row on the start line. And, you know, standing on that start line, like, don't get me wrong. There's an absolute somewhere within me. There's a tornado. But like, although I'm a young man, I know when to let that firework off. And that firework was not being let off until Dufton, you know, 160 odd miles into the race. And then once that's there, I can't really measure the investment and the emotional energy I can put into that. You couldn't put me on a machine that could show a graph of what I would have done or what I could have done there. And I was blessed that my body held on. And right at that point, there was enough physical ability to back up the mind, and that was amazing. And don't be scared of those points. You know, there's 5 or 6 year project, if not longer, from when I first placed my first bet. I don't know, and then all of a sudden, there's a race manifesting itself where you can be that, you can show, you can show that at the right time in the right place in the most competitive field, longest race, whatever. You've got a chance to really be yourself when it matters, and that's what happened up there. I control that dog or that thing in a cage. Um, it's just in my blood, and if I need to unleash it, I can. But you can't stand on a start line of a 3 day race, unleash it there. You got to wait and earn the right to let the dog out. And I earned the right to let the dog out, which I'm about to do now. Go on, Winnie.
I'm smiling because I watched the full race unfold. I saw the pack go off hard. I knew, I was like, holy shit, this is fast. What's going on?
I text my wife. I text my wife in the group chat on the way up there, and I said, "Get your popcorn ready because I think something serious is going to go happen here." And it did. Wow, mad, mad.
And you waited on your moment. You almost dropped off at a touch. I don't know what that was. Is that was maybe just saying keep the cage locked for the moment. You allowed things just to start to unfold in front, and then it just seemed like this is my own analogy, of course. I'm not there. I'm not living it. I'm watching dots. I'm watching updates from Innovate and Spine and stuff like that. But it just seemed like your moment came and you almost seemed to just flip the switch. And then any other footage it showed of you after that, you look like a robot. Now I get to see that firsthand. I'll crew my brother and things like that. I get to see when that switch goes, nothing. It's like, boom, what's that? And I could see the footage of you, and I went, wow, that's it. Forget, pardon the pun, all bets are off. This race is going to get torn apart now. And you just did not let up. It was, when you're in that mode and it's unfolding, because you're super tuned into your state of mind, I can tell that already. But when you flip that switch and when you fully engaged in that event, were you aware that you'd done it, or were you just keep going and do not stop? Or
Yeah, along Hadrian's Wall. I mean, literally every time I speak about this, it brings tears to my eyes, gives me goosebumps. I've never worked so hard
yeah,
for anything in my whole life, and I remember talking to myself along the wall to stay awake and in the snow, and I just like this is what's special to me, to be so far into the deep to the sleep deprivation, to be so physically exhausted. I remember saying to myself, "You've waited all your life for this," and like that was there, and running gave me a chance, and I waited all my life for it, and that's why I didn't slow down when I had 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. That's what I'm still trying to figure out. Speaking to people, I could have, I could have dropped time. I could have respected it. I could have waited. I could have won the race in 76 hours. But something was telling me to have that clarity in the brain when you haven't slept and you're absolutely knackered. I mean, you can't even, there's no point me saying knackered. There's not even a word to describe it. But to have that clarity and to have that avenue of thought pattern is something that I'll never forget. And it just felt pure and it just felt right. And as soon as I slotted in, like you said, I think, past Greenhead, along Hadrian's Wall, I was thanking myself that I got to that point, and then I just handed myself over to something else, and it was right place, right time, perfect.
yeah, sure was. And for a comedy moment, the pictures at you at the end, for me, like I looked at you and so you look like you just stepped out a rave after a weekend. Someone's just had you all locked in a rave somewhere, and the pictures of you, I guess the two most tired images I can recall in running events in recent years is the picture of you at the end of the Spine and the picture of Jasmine at the end of Barclays. Both stand in their own. But the reason I bring those two things up is because both have unbelievable relevance of putting everything on the line to achieve that goal. I'm sure she was equally aware of that clock running out, even though she's only got a shitty little time thing on her, whatever. But everyone would be so aware, and words would be getting said and stuff. Both of you, it's funny that those two absolute images of fatigue were two people so driven by that goal.
But then actually, I spoke to Jasmine recently talking about a few different things, and I was just like I said, I was just myself. Like I set up a race scenario where I could be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. That's all I can measure. That's all I can say about it. And there was obviously millions of cogs in the chain over the years, like millions of them. But when the time came, and when we left that checkpoint at Middleton, my mind switched straight away. There was three of us at the front. How am I going to win this race? And then it changed over the 10 hours. And I guess the 10 hours that followed, and then 2 days that followed. As soon as I touched the wall, like it just felt like the end of something massive. Not the start of something new. I don't know where that start might be the summer or whenever. Still in the transition stage, but as soon as I touched that wall, just cashed in all my checks and ran away from the bank.
And yeah, the bank were chasing you.
and with the health and the risk involved with skipping sleep and doing this ridiculous stuff, I don't truly understand the risk, because no runner would do what they do if they did. But I'm willing to go, beyond what I did at the spine. Like I just think at the right time, with the right energy, with the right meaning behind it, you can achieve whatever you need to.
Something you talked about in a podcast, and without prompting, you managed to bring it up very briefly in this one. I absolutely loved it, and I want all my listeners to hear it as well or see it. So, someone in another podcast asked you, "How do you prepare for the spine? How do you?" So, we've talked about the spine, but that's not the bit that I'm interested in. When they ask you about how you prepare for the spine, you explain this brilliant analogy, and there's a lot of people that are training and things that train themselves into injury because they train too much, they do too much, and this kind of thing. You talked about this thing where, say, I train for 2 hours a day. I've done a run, I've been to the gym, whatever. You talk about this thing about having 22 other hours in a day. I love this. Now, I am not, I haven't mastered this, but I am so conscious of this now, and I'm trying to be so much better at the bigger picture. Explain to people this little theory you have about how to be this best version.
Well, when you go into a race, if a race is 2 hours of the day on a Saturday, you don't want to be getting changed. You don't want to be getting changed and getting kit checked, and then go on in a certain zone, and then go on the start line and execute a race performance, and then come out of it. You don't want to be. That's what I used to do before I was maybe an elite runner. I used to have, travel to the race, get nervous, race start line, I'm in a different skin, feel a different man, go and do what you do, come out of it, come home. Running is a huge monumental package which can't be sport, running for me, can't be measured just in the time you're out running, otherwise you're not going to be the best version of yourself. You have to deal with the other 22 hours of the day, 23 hours of the day. You have to control it and enjoy it and respect it. And training's too easy. Everyone wants to train hard. Everyone wants to run 7 days a week. Everyone wants to do 100 miles a week with 20,000 foot of vert. We're not all blessed with the option to do that with time and finances. But if you really respect running and you've let it into your life, them over 22 hours a day are extremely enjoyable, extremely satisfying. And they should promote an easier 2 hours when you've got your trainers on. But to extract the most out of running, realize that as soon as you walk through the door, you take your shoes off, you're still a runner. Deal with that, eat well, focus on happy, healthy version of yourself. And you're always reviewing, you're always assessing. To get the most out of running, you can't just shut the door after those 2 hours. Let it into your life. let it ebb and flow through you, and enjoy it. That's that. I've just learned. Just when I got to that crossroads after the Southern Uplands, I learned that I've got a chance, and like to train hard is not, it's not easy, it's not good enough. You know, to train hard and do the stuff, do the miles, it's not good enough.
No.
You know, I was stripped back at the spine. Felt like I was naked up on the Cheviot. I was just myself. I was there. I can't train for that. Can't train for that 2 hours a day. Can't train for that 3 hours a day. 5 hour long run on a Sunday. I realised that it's an expression of who you are, and that's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
And is this now the part of that picture is now how you add in your recovery, how you add in maybe you know, if you treat yourself to a sports massage, how you do your hydration, all these things. Is it now giving the same care and attention to each of these element or pillars of your training, not just the running part?
Yeah, like I said, the running's the easiest bit. The running
Yeah.
is what we all want to do, and what is seen by everybody.
Yeah.
The other areas of the day, they set you up to run, and then you run, and then, you know, can you, to extract as much from those 2 hours a day, let's get in and let's do the right things and take the satisfaction there. And if you pick up an injury and those 2 hours a day are taken away from you, well, guess what? If you're doing the other 22 hours a day really well, you still feel like you're in it. You're still a runner. You don't always have to. You know, I realize it's a lifestyle, and that isn't just running around Europe, UTMB, all this snazzy stuff. You know, it can just be sitting here, relaxing, realizing that the sport is not as black and white as you think. It's not as blurry as you think. It's really simple. Can you get better at recovery? Can you get better at diet? Can you get better at hydration? And all of those will promote a happier and healthier mindset, which will only aid the 2 hours. You know, the 22 hours, set yourself up for a better 2 hours. And something I believe in, because I don't, like I said, I don't train much. I don't do a great deal, you know, but those other 22 hours a day, they add up, and they added up for me, and it worked just as it was meant to.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you've talked about already a couple of times in this is Steve. You mentioned the psychologist. So this is a question I obviously I found I thought would be really useful, certainly from what I do and how I help people. What have you found having that psychology stroke mindset kind of coaching? What's that brought to you? What's that put in the locker?
Someone above me who's more intelligent, who is experienced, who I trust more than alongside my wife. You know, I generally put Steve up there as one of the most important people in my life, and it's nice to have a figurehead above me who I can bounce ideas off, who can settle me down, and who can pick me up when I need picking up. And I don't mind giving a bit of my shield, a bit of my hard man steel shield to someone else, because my wife's got 99% of it, and Steve's got 1%. And he's just been crucial, and he's made me look at life through a different prism. Like a dog called Winnie. My dog's called Winnie, and we're talking pre-spine, and he's doing these techniques, and we're talking about the dog, and he's like, my eyes are shut, he's rubbing my face, he's getting me in the zone, and he's like, there's a fucking reason you called your dog Winnie. Win. And then he just repeats win like 500 times in this room. Win. Win. And then I leave that room, and all I've got in my head is win. Yeah. Like, I trust him, and he's just, again, massive investment for me for those other 22 hours a day, and he complements it, and I trust him, and I feel the force of people behind me when I run. I felt that at the spine. I felt it at other events before, and it's nice to have that clarity. And life's busy, and you know, I coach and I help people.
Yeah.
And there's times when I need I need to be told, and I need to be listened to, and I need to listen. And Steve is that figurehead for me. There's you might have heard on another podcast before the Spine 2023, where I ran 85 hours and change. I just randomly driving home from work, or I rang Steve, I think, and I said, Steve, is there any chance you could jot me some notes down for my drop bag? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to need them to give me a kick up the arse. I don't know if I'm going to need them for an arm around the shoulder. But something came to me where these notes will get me to my drop bag. If I'm in a bad spell, what would Steve do? Get to the drop bag, find out. Get to the notes, no idea what's on them. Get to the race, 2023. Don't touch the notes. Don't. I know they're there. I know there's something in my bag which could stir something different in me. Don't touch them. Still got them. 2024, we do the same. And at Montane, when I was on the verge of DNFing for however long, it wasn't long, but it was there. Not going to lie, it was there. There was a chink in the armour.
Yeah.
Those notes got me to Hawes. I don't know what they said. I still don't know. They're still upstairs. I've never opened them, but there's something written down there which bridged the gap, and the energy was connected. And because Steve had written them, I trust and I love to bits. Kept my head above the water by written on them. Could be just a dot, no idea. But something just, when I needed him, and when I needed my wife, they were there and they kept my head above the water. And then from Hawes, I could have looked at the note, but I'd regrouped and I didn't need them. And then I bounced up the Pennine Way from there. But really interesting technique.
What's interesting about it, Jack, is that you've still not opened the notes. I'm curious. The podcast where they said that to you, they never really pressed you on why have you not opened the notes.
I used them as I needed to at the time. What's written down there, what could have stirred the engine, and then that flicker of emotion just charged me in a different way. So I don't need to know what's on the notes. It just brought me back to life. It brought me knowing that someone you care about and you trust has written something there, which, like I said, it could be nothing on them. I don't know. just like a psychological win that I knew I thought I might need, and at Montane I did. And then it's just a nice mystery.
It is a nice mystery.
Trust me, I lent on that. I needed that at the time.
Oh yeah. It's I've got the race across Scotland in August, and I fully intend to make sure that my wife and son, etc., leave me little notes, and I hope I've got the strength not to need those fucking notes either. But who knows? But I think there's something incredibly powerful in that. That the people who matter most in the world are in your bag waiting on you if you need them.
And when we're talking about trying to enhance a performance, we're not, which was what Steve does is he deals with phobias. So he can through a technique called havening, where he disrupts parts of the brain and gets them engaged with something else, and you sort of strip back in a hypnotic state. He then comes into your head, comes into your being, comes into your body to fight phobias or illness. He's fought depression, stress, and when we went into it, he was trying to enhance a performance. Really interesting. So we spoke about race fears, and there was a bit of, after Spine 2023. Again, recapped 85 hours, and then I had to speak to my wife. Am I going back? Am I going to risk doing what I did, risk the 85 hours and go back? And Steve sat me down, and he made me realize that to try and fulfill my potential and to try and make a move and to try and be a better version of myself, the natural progression is you have to risk what you've done. You have to risk the third fastest time ever to go back. And I had a wobble. Did I want it? Did I believe it? Could I do it? And Steve made me believe I could. And that was sort of May, June time last year. And then he helped me through my injury process. And we've done a few recap exercises and just really clever, intelligent way. But you don't have to go to a specialist. Like I've said, get around the table, leave
Yeah.
your phones in the other room, sit down, where you at in life, what is important, and just enjoy all that and soak it in. Be a sponge. That's what I've managed to do.
Love it. Love
And
it.
as I get fitter and as I physically grow as a man, I'm just backing up what I believe I can do. I guess.
Yeah, you definitely are. Credit to Steve, but more so credit to you. Um, maybe mentioned to you, I've got a couple of different questions here. I've got a couple of questions thrown in from a little group of friends that knew we would be having this conversation. What
Yeah.
advice would you give someone out there who's struggling with their mindset or mental health?
Think outside the box and try something new. If you've got a small passion in your life, if you've always wanted to read a book, or if you've always wanted to go to Sicily, if you've always wanted to plant some cabbage at the back of the garden, make a move and take a little bit of effort away from that stress and that suffering you're doing, and try something new. You never know where that could springboard you. Could open your eyes to something totally new and totally different. It doesn't have to be something massive. Like you don't have to go out and buy a new car, or go out and buy I don't know, buy a new house, or it doesn't have to go to Ibiza. Like, it doesn't have to be something massive. It can be a tiny tweak in your life, which just exposes you to new emotion and new passion and new feeling, and you know you invest in something emotionally, not necessarily physically. And I did that. I did that with running, and I'd say that is a huge. Well, that is a huge thing to do. You know, if you've like I said, if you always wanted to read that book, do it. If you've always wanted to have a fishing lesson, do it. Go to the driving range. I don't know. Make a little tweak and see what grows from there. It doesn't have to be something huge. And then another thing I'd say is don't let anyone tell you that you can't be you can't do something. Like I remember when I entered the spine in 2019, I was working on a building site, loads of lads, massive group, and they knew what I'd entered. The year Jasmine won it, and then I went back. You know, I went to race in 2020, but they were laughing. They didn't understand what it was about. They just saw the stats, and they saw like, have you heard what he's trying to do, and all this and all that. And I'm like, I remembered that. I remembered that this year on the spine. How people have told me I can't do it, and I've had really difficult chats with my wife about just how much I want to invest in the sport, and obviously now it's paid off, and she's seeing the benefits. But you know there is tough times ahead. But if you believe in something and you believe you've got a journey to go on, within reason, you make sure you fulfill your potential as much as you can, and enjoy the journey, enjoy the ups and the downs, because it's all part of those 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant reframing what you've just mentioned. The ups and the downs. The downs are part of a beautiful journey. The downs are the thing that actually when I've personally found in my life, when the ups are long gone, the downs will be those incredible moments of adversity and turmoil when you feel like you're losing your mind and you're surrounded by naysayers. Those moments are the things that's going to you just feel the fire burning and say, yeah, I remember that. I remember when I was written off. I remember when they said I couldn't.
Don't let the ups pick you up so high that when the downs come,
Yeah,
you're kicked in the bollocks and you're done.
yeah,
You know, like I've said, when I've failed, I've been myself. When I've succeeded, I've been myself. Just carry on being myself. Don't try and live someone else's life. Don't try and run someone else's race. Don't don't blur your picture with all this other nonsense out there. If you fail, it's you and you own it. If you succeed, it's you. You revel in it in your own little bubble, which I've done in my own four walls, and it doesn't change you. You might you might evolve. You know the clock's always ticking. Nod your head, absorb it, move on. Just like a failure. That's what you got to do with a failure. Don't
yeah,
forget it. Absorb it, so it's there and it will come to you when you need it.
yeah.
That's what I've
Who's
got.
your hero and why?
Who's my hero? Mike Hartley, long distance runner from the late 70s, early 80s into the 90s. he was doing some things on the Pennine Way, on the Southern Upland Way. He had a completely different approach to me. You know, before gadgets and gizmos, he was running 150, 60 miles a week. Used running as a tool in his life for transport, and then realised, and he trained and he grew and he evolved. And back in the day, the simplicity of the sport, you know, no one knew what he was doing. He had a support team when he did the Pennine Way, or, you know, he was out there following his nose, following an instinct that all humans have to move and to embrace movement and to suffer and to see what endurance means. And when I was up there doing what I did in January, I went old school, and I just followed that feeling within me that he would have done before. He speaks about a flow in his book. He speaks about a purity and a clarity, even though you're so close to the brink of destruction. And I held on to that and I followed that, and it was the purest, most satisfying period of my life. And Mike spoke about that before. And I'm just proud that with all the distractions and with all the different things going on in today's world, for example, you know, my nan was tracking me on the spine. You know, the people in southern Chile, millions of miles from me, I don't know, they were tracking me. But when he was doing it for himself, and he was being himself, and he was pure, and he was strong, and he was good. He was having to use phone boxes to contact people all around the course to say where he was, and just no GPS, compass, handheld torches. Oh, that simplistic life is pure for me. And at the spine, I had 3 days to run, and I just treated it as a 3 day long run. And Mike's characteristics, and I finished the run and got an email off Mike, and it broke me. I was absolutely emotionally gone when I saw the email of him saying what he thought about it. Because people who've been to the brink, and I've spoke to Jasmine about this, and Damien and John Kelly, like, it means more when you hear it from them, because they've been in that shadow, and shadow's a dark and dangerous place, but they can relate to it. It's really nice. Your brother's similar, and I'm sure you might get into the shadow stage, but when you hear it from people who've been there, it's satisfying. So Mike Hartley is my running hero for sure.
Without sort of minimizing your answer there, I wonder, are you fully aware of what you've just said in terms of how many people you're impacting with what you're doing? Are you've just sort of quite blasé, somebody in southern Chile, somebody there, some, but that is the reality of your actions. That if running is a drug for so many people, are you aware that your actions are impacting people? And you know, some guy who's on his own right now in his flat, he's just watched your event, and he's like, holy shit, I want to be like this guy. This is unbelievable. I want to change my life like this guy. Do you ever sort of like take a minute and go, shit, I had no idea my life was going to take this turn where I was going to be someone that so many people looked up to?
No, I don't think like at all. Like, I'm not different, or I'm just a normal guy. Like 29, steel fixer from Stoke-on-Trent, little two-bed house. You know, that, you know, I want to be relatable. Don't get me wrong. I want people to see what I've done, and to hear me speak and be like, yeah, that's achievable, because it is, you know. But I wouldn't, anyone who saw what I've done, or, you know, but when I see things that inspire me, I don't think I want to be like them. You know, I want to go through what they've done in my own skin, in my own, and I never look at anyone with resentment or envy. I might look at the situation they've created for themselves, and that's what I want to be in that. I want to be in that scenario and figure that out myself. And you know, when I watched Ian Keith finish, as I was in the foothills of my own running journey, right at the bottom in 2018, I think he broke the record, 99 hours. you know, maybe there was a little flicker in my blood. Maybe there was a chemical reaction that changed me then. Because I remember texting my mum saying, have you heard about this race? I want to do this. And she was like, no, you're mad. You're my little boy. You can't go and do that. So people will have seen what I've done and it will inspire.
Yeah.
Someone will be the best version of themselves on the Pennine Way, and I'm sure lower my time. And the journey in between is extremely special and valuable. And then when you get to the end, it's a good place to be. But the journey is much more important than that wall, touching that wall. Yeah. Enjoy all the bits in between, because that's made me who I am now.
I love that. Just I'm on to the last couple of things. These are little short ones.
Yeah, I'll try and be as short as I can. Come on, Win.
So, oh no, you don't need to be short. These are just sort of shorter questions. You can go as long as you need to. What are your top strengths and weaknesses?
Weaknesses. I enjoy running. I enjoy it. I don't love running. Like I do. Like I said, I enjoy running. Like sometimes within the run, I'm settling in. I might not seem like I enjoy it, but I do. I was training quickly. I was training with Josh Wade the other day, an amazing runner, won UTS, probably. We were training the lakes, and just his energy and his pump when we got to the summits and we were descending, we were talking. I realised he probably loves running more than me. So that's a review that I've done recently, which is interesting. So weaknesses would be, I can go into dark spaces in races and get negative and question what I'm doing, but that always and more than likely ends up as a positive because my other characteristics come out. I'm not sure about weaknesses. My positives are my strengths are patience, discipline, and I've got the ability to step back, look at the situation I'm in, look back at myself, and be like, right, this is where we go next. This is what we do. Instead of just being all pumped up and head down in life, I'm quite good at reviewing the situation I'm in, and that's I want to continue that sustainability, happy and healthy. Don't weigh yourself down. Don't leave yourself too thin. Weaknesses. Not sure.
That's okay. I love that. I love
Not
that.
easy to
I don't.
either, really. Just me, like just Jack.
I know, but I'm laughing because I love the. I don't really love running that much. God help everyone if you learn to love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So this little question here, this is someone hoping for an exclusive.
Oh God.
So the question is a word, UTMB.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Again, we're saying this at the end of the interview. I want to improve. I want to get better. I want to grow as a man. I want to learn. I want to evolve the mind, evolve the body, and I need to get better. And I like to think I will. And UTMB will be something that I want to go back as a better version of myself. And there was a lot of questions after the spine. Why don't you go on the Pennine Way and chase after John's time and do this and that? And I'm like, I'm not good enough for that yet. Like, I've had my day in the sun. Don't get me wrong. It was there and it happened and brilliant. And it looks like it does. But I know I need to be better. And I'm hungry to be better. And I'm hungry to learn and to evolve. And UTMB is one of those, the Pennine Way summertime. And again, amazing, intriguing record attempt. But I'm not ready for that. I need to get better. So,
But we will see you there some point.
when the equation's correct, yeah, and when I've
Okay.
got enough attachment and emotional energy to really get what I want.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I need to get, that race is different characteristics. I need to get faster, fitter, stronger to set up a race where I can release what happened at the spine.
Yeah.
But I need the body to carry me there. My body's not there yet.
Yeah.
Same for the Pennine Way record time. I'm not good enough as a runner yet to do what I need to do.
Okay, yeah, I get that. So that leads on to this one, which is your number one bucket list race.
Ooh. Have to be Barkley right now, I think.
Oh, that's as close as an exclusive we're going to get on this.
That would be what a blessing that would be. Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces on the board need to come together for Barclays to happen. I don't think a lot of people outside running understand that, do they? In terms of getting in, the logistics, and just the whole package. Scott's talked me through that before. It's not just as simple as there's a race, sign it up, boom. But interesting that that's on your radar.
You know, normally events you can give 100% to them because you know when they start, you know how to get in, you know the routes, you know this and that. You know, the next jeopardy in my running move, you know, questions like the Barclay or some other events maybe in the US, you know, you can't do that. You know, to give 100% is easy. Like here, you've got to give 90 and then let 10% be washed down the drain. And I like that jeopardy.
You like this one. What did you think of Russ Cook's effort?
The guy who ran up Africa.
The hardest geezer.
What did I think of it? It doesn't really make sense to me, but I mean, listen, I'm the first one that if you get an idea in your head, you find a way to do it and don't let barriers get in your way. It's obviously a monumental logistical effort and physical effort. And people use running in different ways. I use running in a certain way with my philosophy. He does that. Really interesting experiment, and congratulations to him. And I'm sure a deep fulfillment for his next move in his life. Not something I'd like, not something I'm intrigued with. But hey, the sport's there to be used in whatever way you need it to be. So use it and enjoy it.
Two things I took from it. I had no idea that a ginger guy could run in that heat for that long. And yeah, second thing, which is more probably relatable to ourselves, is I guess it's sort of, it does, I know anything's possible in this life and the boundaries keep getting pushed, but it does sort of shine a light on that, what people perceive as possible in terms of you're physically able to push your body to a height that people go, no, that shouldn't be able to happen, or all those good things. I thought it was just an incredible physical achievement for someone who would be, by his own physical attributes, skin and different things like that, up against it right from the off. I had a friend who went out on the final day to Tunisia and ran the final marathon, and he's a big marathon sort of runner, if you like. He's well equipped, and he says, Kevin, the heat absolutely killed me. And he says, and even on their final day, and I know Russ would probably be caught up in adrenaline, or the crowds had arrived, he wasn't on his own, end is in sight, but even on the final day, he says you felt like he was dragging everyone. He was kicking on. I just thought it was unbelievable, how this.
That's a force and a power again, like we spoke about in my story.
Yep.
It's something that you can't explain or can't be measured until you're actually in that being and in that zone. And he must love running more than me.
I think there's a chance. Last couple of little ones here. Favorite pre-race meal?
Probably gammon, egg and chips, loads of peas, bit of chili sauce on the gammon. I'm happy with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's what I like, for sure.
Favorite location to run, even though you're not loving it?
Favorite location to run? Probably be Snowdonia, quiet corner of Snowdonia where, yeah, that place changed my life and changed my outlook and has had a huge impact on me. So probably Snowdonia for me.
That's an interesting one. Again, I was spent the weekend with Scott. We were up in the West Highland Way watching the fling, and he he was talking about his favourite places to run, and he talked about Wales like it was like another world. He says Wales, I think he spent a lot of time there, I think before the Dragon back and stuff. And he says Wales is just out of this world. It's just got such beautiful, beautiful places.
Mm. Yeah, it's different. Especially North Wales, it flows different, and the valleys, and yeah, it's a really intriguing, interesting old place. And the Lake District doesn't quite have that for me at the minute. My relationship's always been with Snowdonia, and it will continue to be that way. I think it's a special place.
Favourite mid-race snack?
Ooh. I can pull a cheese and pickle sandwich out my bag and nibble on that. That'll do.
Yeah.
Cheese and pickle sandwich, I think. Some nice, strong salt and vinegar crisps.
Oh yeah, good. And the last one from me, favourite quote and why?
Hmm. I'm sure that I've definitely got some screenshots in my phone. I like the saying of the old Cherokee who's who's preaching to his grandson about feeding the good wolf. You know, there's a battle going on inside you between a good wolf and a bad wolf. All day, every day, never stops. And the grandson asks the old Cherokee. He says, which wolf will win?" And the grandfather says, "The one you feed. Feed the good wolf. No one's perfect. Feed the good wolf. The good wolf will win."
Do you know, like people will be listening to that, and I know it's going to resonate in the way it's just resonated with me. So I'm going to just comment on that. I think that's, they talk about the voice on each shoulder, um, and the one that you allow the volume up on is the one that's going to determine your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You'll know all this from working with Steve and things like that, but I think for just your everyday person out right now on a walk with the headphones in, listen to this conversation, just be mindful of the voice that you give volume to. Both of them want to have a say, but you've got the power to turn that volume down. So the one that's telling you you're not good enough, the one that's telling you you can't go and do that uncomfortable thing that Jack spoke about during this episode, the one that's telling you that you're never going to make it, you're never going to be happy, if you turn that volume down and give volume to that other voice, that wolf, and that says, well, what if you can do it? How will
So
you know? How will you know? That's where you want that volume to be.
the bad wolf is described as sorrow and greed and mutiny and selfish decisions, and the good wolf is hope and light, brightness and truth. I remember before the sun up and way, I was doing a lot of that leaning towards the good wolf. It really resonated with me, and it just came to me then. I haven't thought about it for some time, but it just came to me then.
I'm glad it did.
Everyone has a choice. Everyone has an option.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jack, this has been absolutely fantastic for me. These podcast episodes are all just about diverse conversations.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is you've given a bit more than just Jack the runner. We've been able to just chew the fat, an expression we use up here, on so many things. I know this is going to help lots of people. I know that so many people are going to resonate with the things that you've spoke about around mindset, around mental health, around choice. So I just want to say a real massive sincere thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, like I've said, it's been nice to natter on and to get into the ears of different people. And it doesn't, I just want to reiterate what I've done is what I do is pretty extreme, but it doesn't, because I'm an extreme guy and I've suffered extremely and I've may succeeded extremely. It doesn't have to be as extreme as that or as scary as that or as long as what I've done. can be a simple park run, it can be a simple hike up to the Munro or the summit you've always wanted. It doesn't have to be extreme, and just see where that takes you.
No, thank you, mate. So for anyone that's enjoyed this episode, as always, you know, give it a listen, give it a watch, and if you like it, give it a share. Let your friends, family, colleagues, let people know so that they can also enjoy it. When this goes live, I will obviously I'll stick in a link, to Jack, so that you can follow Jack's journey. Let's see, get to see what he gets up to next. Let's see if he maybe eventually loves running, and God help us all if he does. But yeah, I really look forward to the feedback. I've really enjoyed having this conversation. So thanks, and I'll speak to you all soon.